Hello, my loves. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another brand new episode of the Becoming You podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to ask and receive miracles in your life. And this topic came to mind because I've been experiencing some pretty miraculous things on my summer travels. And I'm going to start the episode off sharing with you some of those miracles and what I learned from them and what I want you to take away from them. So, I've been to England this year to see my parents because that's where they live. And then I went to Malaysia to visit my in laws. So, my husband's family lives there. And obviously, my kids, they need to see both sets of grandparents. And we are very, very blessed when it comes to traveling the world and giving our kids these experiences. So, when we are in Malaysia, as a family, we try to usually go to a beach resort somewhere for about 3 or 4 days to just really come together as a family. And when we go, I'm not talking about just the four of us. I'm talking about my in-laws, and if my brother-in-law's family is there, like we all try to go together and we make memories. And so this time we picked an incredible like five-star resort, and it was an all-inclusive, right? So the dream vacation. And so we're at the resort for like 4 days, and this island is designed in a way where the living quarters, the eating area, and everything is on one side of the island. And then if you want to go chill out on the beach, you actually have to take a shuttle bus because it's on the other side of the island. It's like less than a 5 minute bus ride, but it's like a really hilly trek. It's like a trek up and a trek down. So to be safe, they have a free shuttle that goes round and around the island. So you just jump on and jump off. So one day, there I am with my kiddos, my niece, and we're waiting for the bus. And when it comes to traveling, like I love meeting new people and hearing people's stories because stories is what connects us. So as we were waiting at the bus stop, there's this older couple. The woman is, I can tell she's Chinese, and the man is Caucasian. He's white. And so I asked them, where are you from? And she said, I grew up in Malaysia, but I now live in England. And, my husband and I have lived there for many, many years. So then I say, well, where in England are you from? Because that's where I lived there for 10 years of my life. And she said, this name of this area, which I'm very familiar with because it's the northeast of England. And I said, that's so funny because my parents and I have lived in a rented place in that very particular city that you are referring to. So, as you do, you get curious and you ask more and more questions. And it turns out that they are from the exact same area that I've grown up in, right? England is a very small country, so all these towns are like 10, 15 minutes from one another. And I said, that's so funny. My dad has worked in all of these places that you are talking about. And she goes, oh, really? What does your father do? And I said, he is a surgeon. And she goes, no way. My husband is a retired surgeon. And so she goes, I wonder if they know each other. And it turns out that, my dad is a surgeon too. So again, small, small world. Like I kind of thought, I'm sure they have worked together because they're really small circles. The doctor circles in England are very, very small. And I showed a picture of my dad, and this man that we were at the beach resort with says, I do remember him. And I was blown away. Upon further digging, it turned out that this man and my father had worked together for a few years. And this man was actually my dad's boss. And when I call my dad, I was like, you are not going to believe who I met. And I mentioned the name of the man I had just met. And my dad was like, oh my gosh, he was my boss. Like I didn't even have to jog my dad's memory. And I was just blown away. Like, what are the chances of me being on vacation on some tiny island, like all the way across the world from where I live, and running into a man that has worked with my father probably about 10, 15 years ago. And we actually make the connection, right? We actually make the connection. It was like a jaw-dropping event, and I will forever remember this in my life because just the probability of that happening, I feel like, is so slim that there is nothing else to call it but a miracle, right? We think of miracles as a tiny, 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 tiny chance of something happening. right? And we usually associate it with something positive and good. And I definitely classified this as a miracle because the chances of something like this happening is so small, like that it might not even ever happen, right? That's how slim it is. So the second miracle, we are still on the same island. We're on the last day. We're having lunch at one of the restaurants on the beach. And I sit down and I order my meal, and I'm there with all my kids, my nieces, my nephews, my sister-in-law, my husband, and my in-laws. They weren't there. And we sit down, we're all like chatting away. And I guess my voice is like, I think I speak loud. I'm not a very quiet person when I speak. My voice tends to carry. So this woman just shows up at our table. You can tell she's one of the guests as well. She's in her bathing suit. And she just walks up and stops at the front of the table. And we all stop and we look up because this is a stranger standing at the end of the table. And she goes, "Excuse me, are you Visa?" And I'm blown away because I'm like, I don't remember meeting you on this island. And I said, yes, yes, I am. And she goes, "Oh, I thought it was you. I recognized your voice. I listened to your podcast." And there was just a stunned silence at the table. My jaw was open. My eyes were like dilated at this like woman telling me that she listens to my podcast. Anytime I meet anyone that says they listen to my podcast, I am so humbled and honored and flattered and just jumping for joy like a little kid on Christmas Day, because it is a gift when people come up to me and say, "I listen to your podcast and it brings, a small amount of value to my life." But to have that happen halfway across the world and for a stranger to come up to me, right? Like, I know people listen to my podcast, and a lot of the local people that I know that listen to it are friends, are family, are like, moms that go to my kids' school and they kind of know me through the circles in the neighborhood and things like that. But for a complete stranger, right, to come up to me and say that, I was just like, oh my Lord. And I was so appreciative and grateful that, she came up to me and introduced herself, because it's not always easy to go up to a table of strangers and kind of risk being wrong, right? She could have been wrong. But that was another miracle that happened while I was on vacation. And it was two incredible reminders of how small the world is. So I'm going to give you a third miracle, okay? So I was traveling back to the US, and I was not traveling with my family. So my husband and my kids were traveling alone. I was by myself. We were traveling on 2 different days, and I had a very tight connection to make from, in San Francisco to fly to Washington, D.C. And I didn't know whether I was going to make it. And then I was also, so I won't go into all the details of it, but I had a long layover, and I was hoping that I would make the shorter transit. So there were 2 flights going out of San Francisco, one at 4 o'clock and one at 1 o'clock. And I had landed at like 11:30 in San Francisco. So my husband and I ended up booking the 4 o'clock connection because I just didn't think there would be enough time to clear immigration, get my bags, recheck my bags, and get to my gate. So, but lo and behold, it turned out like at 12:45, I realized, like I might be able to make an earlier flight. So I get to the agent and I ask her, "Hey, can I get on the earlier flight?" She looks at me and she goes, "Well, the flight is really, really full, but you're welcome to go on standby, see whether you get on the plane," right? This was a big deal because it was a difference of me getting into Washington, D.C. at 1 a.m. or 9 p.m. If I can get in at 9 p.m., right, I can get to bed a lot earlier. So I get to my gate, and like I'm third on a list of 12 people that are waiting to go on standby on this flight. And most people, including me a few years ago, would have been like, "There's no way I'm getting on that." Like, it's a completely full flight. Like, you should have seen the crowd outside the gate. It was hundreds of people. But there was something within me, I think it was the momentum from experiencing the miracles in Malaysia. I just decided I'm going to get on this flight, even though it looks completely unlikely, even though my mind, my rational mind is saying, don't get your hopes up, you're not going to get on this flight. Just hold the faith. Decide that you're getting on this flight. Thank the miracle for it's already happened, right? Just hold the faith. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And I kept wavering and I was like, oh my God, I really want to get on this flight. I hope we get on this flight. And then I would shift and I'd be like, nope, we're getting on this flight. Thank you, universe, for helping me get on this flight. And sure enough, with like a few minutes left to go before the gate closed, they called my name and I got on the flight. And that was another miracle that happened. So here's what I want you to take. So after all these stories, here are my takeaways for you. Number one, the biggest takeaway that I had was the world is so intricately connected. And what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that the world wants to give you what you desire, right? And I think most of us float through life feeling like we are alone, that no one really gets us, that the life is out to get us, everything always works against us, right? When life gets hard, that's how we feel. We feel like we're pushing this big rock up a mountain and we feel so alone, like we are carrying the burdens of the world. And when I met these complete strangers that were so linked to my life, it reminded me of like, yes, the world can seem really large and vast and like we're all just going about our lives. But in fact, everybody is so connected. And that is true in the physical sense as well as the spiritual sense. Because, you know, to be human is to be connected. To be human, it means to be connected to the bigger universe. And, you know, this is why energy is so important. Because, you know, when you think about someone and then immediately your phone rings and that person is on the other end of the line, that wasn't just like a lucky coincidence. That is because that's how connected we are, that our thoughts can reach each other through our subconscious without us realizing. And meeting these strangers helped me realize that, in fact, there are no real strangers in this world. If we just slow down enough and connect with people, we are going to find something that connects us to the other persons, which just means that we are not alone in this world, that we are meant to connect with one another on a very basic human level. The second lesson that I took away was that, you know, help is always there for us should we need to ask, right? Most of us don't forget that we are connected, forget that the world is here, the universe is here to serve us. And there are invisible forces at play that are always waiting to serve us, right? So going back to my standby example, I relied on invisible support that was available for me to help me get what I want. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about angels, right? I'm talking about loved ones that have passed on that are always watching over us. I'm talking about whatever religion you believe in, God, spirit guides, animal spirit guides, right? Like there is unlimited, unimaginable levels of support that are available to us at all times. And they're all waiting. They're all waiting for our command. They're all waiting for our request to say, please help me. I need your help. Please like guide me. Please show me what to do. Please show me the next step. I am willing to receive your help, right? That is available to every single one of us. No, none of us are more worthy or less worthy of getting that support. All it takes is belief. All it takes is starting to practice and flex that muscle of asking and recognizing. The third lesson that I learned was that the more you believe in miracles, the more they tend to happen. You have to, I always talk about, you know, whatever you believe in will show up in your life. So I believe that I got that last seat on the plane because I was so like, I was believing in miracles. My faith in miracles was so strong because I just experienced too in Malaysia, right? That was so fresh in my memory that I was like, if that can happen and the probability of that is so slim and that happened, like me getting on this plane that's a given. That's like going to happen as well, right? So the more you believe in miracles, the more you believe that, this is how I set it up. I was like, I wonder what miracles is going to occur in my life today, right? When you pose it in that way, it's inevitable, because then your brain shifts and starts to look for the evidence of where is the miracle? Like, let me figure out the miracle. Okay, which brings me to my fourth point of what is a miracle. I think we all can get way better at defining what a miracle is. I think we set our expectations too high or too narrow to what defines as a miracle. So, miracle isn't like you winning the lottery. That is a miracle, but that can't be the only way you define it, right? It can't be like a magical cure for maybe, let's say, a chronic illness that you have, right? A miracle is you making a random connection with a stranger. A miracle is a stranger giving up their seat on a train when you are commuting. A miracle is you getting the last thing of guacamole in the supermarket, right? Like, work and look for the miracles in your life. Even things that you wouldn't normally define as a miracle, start defining it as a miracle, because every day that we get to wake up and live, it is a miraculous thing. And there are miracles happening all around us, but we forget about that magic. And we start to labor at life instead of loving life, and instead of looking for the joy in life. And I believe that the more we tend to look for miracles, the more joy we allow in our life. Like, I think watching a sunset is a miracle because we have eyes to witness that. Like yesterday, my husband, my kids, and we have some friends visiting. We were driving home and we forgot that it was the full moon, and we turned this corner and we came over a hill, and that was this bright big orange circle in the sky. And for a minute I thought it was the setting sun, but then we all realized at the same time that it was a super moon, and it was a blood moon, so the moon looked orange instead of white, and it was so big. I've never seen a moon that big. And to witness that, I like grounded that into my body, and I was like, I am witnessing a miracle, which is this full moon, right? Miracle, you start to recognize miracles when you slow down, when you start to appreciate the smaller things in life. And the more miracles you allow into your life, the more fulfilling and joyful and connected your life becomes. So there are four takeaways in today's podcast. One is to start recognizing the miracles in your life and expecting miracles in your life, because we're all experiencing miracles every day. We just don't choose to recognize it as a miracle. And so we believe that our life isn't that miraculous or magical, because it's our job to start recognizing the miracles. Number two is to ask for help from your spirit guides and your angels, because they're always there to give you the help that you need. Number three is we are all more connected than we can possibly fathom, right? That stranger that's going down the street is probably connected to you in some way. I'm not saying go out and connect with every single person that you come across, but be open to connecting with people on a real level. Like, instead of being on your phone, right? Like, if I'd been on my phone during that vacation, I wouldn't have made that conversation. And I think a lot of us are victim to technology, and we don't even, connect to the people in our lives, like our spouses and our kids, let alone strangers at like a bus stop or a train station, or, when we're on vacation. We tend to be, I don't want to say isolated, but like secluded, right? Like we tend to stick to our bubbles, and we don't tend to connect with people outside of those bubbles. And we might be missing out on so much. So be open to connecting with people, because the world is so small and it is so intricately connected. And within those intricate connections, there are so many miracles waiting to happen. All right, you guys, I love you so much. Thank you for letting me share my miracles from my summer vacations this week. And I'll catch you on the next one. In the meantime, if you have any ideas or questions that you would love for me to explore on this podcast, I would love to hear from you. Please send me an email at visa@visalakshi.com. And I will do my best to answer those questions on a future podcast episode. All right, take care. Bye.